Aw, thank you, Ahmad Bodili, for the compliment. And hi, Chuck. And like I was saying before, I'm surviving, but not thriving. Like, what was it? 5 a.m. this morning. I got a text message on my phone, and it's like 5 text messages from my bank, and it's like, you know, suspicious payments, suspicious whatever. And I was freaking out, and it turns out somebody hacked into my PlayStation account that I haven't used in over a year and purchased a bunch of games. So that was stressful this morning that I had to deal with, and I had to call like a million people and be like, well, I'm a victim of fraud. Hi, Quelia, I can't pronounce that name, 07, however you say that. Yeah, that was basically my morning. I wish I had more interesting things to say about it, but not really. And if my music is too loud, tell me so I can lower it. And not too low, otherwise whenever I'm like jamming out, it looks like I'm just dancing alone, and that's kind of embarrassing, and I'm not here for that, you know? Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Grumbles, for following me. I appreciate that follow. Hi, Gaming Dreams, how are you doing? I really don't have anything planned for today. After such big streams, like the podcast streams, I get so tired afterwards. I'm like, oh my god, all my energy has been exerted talking to like multiple people for over 3 hours. So I think what my rule is going to be or whatever, I'm just going to, whenever the podcast is, I'm going to have like a day off the day after. Because otherwise, I feel like dying inside. Yeah. Today I went on Gone Dogs thingy-majiggy. I'm going to play the song again. I'm so sorry if you guys don't like the song. I like it. I'm vibing to it. Yeah. I think like, oh, thank you. I appreciate the compliments on my podcast. When people compliment I totally forgot what it was gonna be because I have the memory of a grain of rice. Will I don't know. What happened to my bank account? What happened to my bank account, my dear OG prodigy, is that this morning I received a series of text messages from my bank saying suspicious activity was happening. And then it turns out I'm $300 short because somebody stole some money from me and started purchasing a bunch of PS4 games. But it's okay. I've dealt with it, I guess. I hope they give me back my money, you know? That'd be very much appreciated. Until then, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Let's put Selena go. You overdraft 50 cents and they charge you $10 to pull that out of your savings to cover it. Oh, when I was doing financial literacy in the Bronx, I learned so much about how poor people are fucked over by banks. Like, no wonder most of them keep everything on cash when you have like an entire institution that like repeatedly has like fucked you over. Yeah, give me a second. Me and Denims might not do podcasts on Wednesday because of Thanksgiving is the next day and it's been like a slow news week, you know? So yeah, we'll see how that happens. I want to put music on, but 5 Seconds of Summer, I used to be a big fan of them. Let's give him a follow. It's Simple Zach, aka Mr. Why do you keep changing her name, Mr. Harmon Gaming? I don't get it. He replied to like, oh yeah, I saw his thing. Yeah, his like reply on Reddit or whatever. I feel bad for the people dunking on him. I don't think he deserves that for not I woke up at 5 a.m. with text messages from my bank and $300 gone because somebody hacked into my PlayStation account that I haven't used in years. Cool shirt today. Yeah. I'm glad you like the shirt. I've had it for a while. I just haven't worn it on stream yet. But yeah. I don't like how it goes up here. Like, it kind of annoys me. It's like a teardrop. I don't like that. I know I shouldn't be calling attention to this area because, like, there's a lot of perverts on, like, Twitch and stuff. But whatever. I already did. So I might as well just own it. But yeah. It's a struggle. I like it when it's, like, straight, not, like, teardrop shaped, if that makes any sense. I know I sound crazy. Whatever. My econ is never ethical. Yeah. Amy Housing for All. She's literally one of the sweetest people ever. Like, on Twitch and stuff. Every time I see her, I'm just like, oh my god, Amy. So yeah, I love her. When you have more I love Bastier too. He's such an interesting dude to talk to. Now, I might not agree with him and come off as like an authoritarian, anti-China asshole or something. But yeah, I love talk. I really like to enjoy our conversations together and stuff. Lottie hopefully is gonna be in a call with us in the future. At least in a podcast, you know. So that'll be a fun experience. In my experience, engineering students are usually too busy to do partying. Is it different in Puerto Rico? Well, okay, so here's the deal. Even if engineering students are too busy to party, Puerto Rico is, like, literally a party culture. Like, I think it's so weird that you'll find somebody who has never, like, partied or doesn't really party there. It's just a thing that happens. Like, we celebrate 4th of July. That's not even our Independence Day. We don't technically have an Independence Day. But just so you get the picture of that, right? Like, Puerto Ricans will find any excuse to take the day off and drink a couple beers and go out, you know? It's really part of the culture there. That's why it's so weird. It's so weird going to America and stuff and then being like, you're under 21, you can't drink. Oh, you have your beer outside, you're getting fined. Like, that shit doesn't happen in PR. In PR, they're just like, yeah, you know what? Like, not only are we gonna have bars, we're gonna have bars that serve you while you're outside, like, just chilling, you know? You want a shot? Here, $2 shot, here you go. Bye, Ghostblade, have a fun night. Yes, this is live, Roy Stang. I just take my sweet, sweet time to reply to everything and go on tangents speaking. Because why not? Because I love that shit, you know? Give me a second. Yeah, I take my sweet old little time responding. This is my little, my political compass. What does that even mean? Your clown pixie? Is that part of who you are? You know what? Like, I respect that. We're all clowns in here. Just go to the normal thing if you want to call, whatever. And then, have a mod bring you in or something after you speak to them for a little bit, I guess. That's not a Puerto Rican thing. That's a 1000% Hispanic thing. All of us do that. Lol. Okay, that's true. Like, that you're right. It's not just Puerto Rican culture. It's like 99% of Hispanic culture. It's just how it is. That's like every country that's not the US. In the US, it was 18 until 1980. Here. I think I'm not just talking about underage 21, right? I'm also talking about, like, finding any excuse and stuff and just, like, I guess having, like, outside drinking. I don't know if that was a thing in the U.S. before 1980. I don't know. It's just a thing. I don't have anything pre-done for topics when it comes to call-ins. Whatever you want to talk about, as long as you're not, like, a troll and saying rude things. Because we're a community that supports people in here, you're free to talk about with me, you know? I'm trying to think about, like, things to fight about, but I don't like... Well, I like saying I'm discussing instead of fighting, because once you start saying I'm fighting people, it's like they close their ears and they're like, la 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 la, I don't want to listen to you, I only want to listen to myself talk, you know? So we'll see how it goes. Fuck. Okay, give me a second, I'm gonna change them. We're gonna put 2008 cringy, emo music, okay? That is the mood for tonight. I am so sorry I'm doing this to you guys, but it's been done. I have decided. I am taking executive action, because last time we had democracy, you guys made me watch a furry video about child labor, which maybe we'll do later tonight over something else, because that was honestly interesting content, which I hated, but at the same time, I appreciated, if that makes any sense. So let's put, let's put Gives You Hell by the All-American Rejects. One year I'm just gonna do an emo cosplay, because why not, you know? I'm gonna go fucking all out. Some wine in order to be able to do this properly. Go for it. Drink your sorrows or your inhibitions away. I know I need a drink right now. Sadly, in the United States of America, you can't do that if you're under 21. and I am currently 20. That doesn't fucking feel real. Time is an illusion. Everything's like fake, but whatever. Yeah. I want to, yeah, what the fuck? Yeah, what the fuck? I feel that. What about the Proud Boys? You mean Proud Boys, the neo-Nazi group, can also fuck off in hell, you know? We're not here to support neo-Nazis or racists or misogynists or people who just literally want to, like, get rid of another group of people. Like, that is not the mood. And that is not, like, the community I want to foster. We're gonna put a poor Stacy woman who obviously, despite everything I care about, despite talking hours and hours and hours about politics and hosting my own political podcast and having like millions of VODs you can check, I, the poor woman, speak about looks, but that is only natural, right? Like, ignore the rest of my content, please, and only focus on that specific thing about me. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Smells Ugly, and Settle Down. It's just me for following me. I like these little 2 pairs of what is it? Of follows I'm getting. Like they were just pairing up. Okay, give me 1 little second to respond to someone. Let me talk to Irrelevant tonight. We'll see how it is. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna sleep like a fucking baby later tonight. I don't know. At first I was sleepy, and then it turns out that I wasn't actually sleepy. It was just I hadn't eaten. But now I feel sleepy again. So all I do is suffer, basically. Long story short. That's the gist of it. Let's find a Panic at the Disco song? No. Let's do a Fall Out Boy song. No. Let's do a Boys Over Flowers song. There we go. Got it. Oh, is that not what it's called? Is that song? Nope. Okay, I thought I knew it. Boys Like Girls? Is it this one? Yeah. I heard the new Fallout game was trash. Is it? Yeah, it's okay. Based on the little I've heard, you might like Eric's form. Been really into him lately. What has he written about? What? Oh, Taking Back Sunday. Is that a song I should put on? Oh yes, My Chemical Romance is having a reunion in LA, and I really want to go to it because I'm emo trash, and I haven't changed since like 2008, I guess. I really feel like I haven't changed at all since a child. I think I've gotten more childish as I've grown up, actually. Like, not even memeing. I feel like over time I have gotten, yeah, I guess more childish. Especially in high school, like, I became best friends with someone. Um, and yeah, me and him got close and stuff. Oh, thank you for hosting me. Gutiangang, I appreciate that. Shit, but what I was saying. Fuck, words are hard, and I have, again, the memory of a green embrace. Let's do The Great Escape. Um, I feel like fighting people. That's not weird. I mean, it's probably not weird for you guys because I mentioned it so much, right? And it's like, just, I guess, like part of who I am, question mark. Um, but still, I feel like it's been so long since I've streamed, but really it's only been 2 days. But even 2 days is more than enough, I guess. What? I looked under my desk, was disappointed. What do you want to fight about? I don't know. what is there to even fight about? I feel like whatever it's possible to fight about on this platform, I've done it, right? Unless if it comes to, like, people's, like, personal relations or whatever, because I stay out of that shit. But I feel like when it comes to, like, take anything, gender, Nazis, racism, economic structures, philosophy, is there anything I haven't thought about yet on this platform? Like, is there a subject you guys can think of that I can be like, yo, dudes, let's fight? That's I guess, like, new and slightly interesting. Nah, I'm not in the mood for free will. I want something new. I want something spicy. I want something I can sink my teeth into and be like, yummy, yummy. You know? But until then, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to argue. Or who to argue with, I guess. You cannot be an environmentalist while still eating meat as part of your diet. I think you can. I mean, you're not the best environmentalist, but doesn't make you not an environmentalist, right? Like, that's, like, I guess, like, gatekeepy kind of, you know? What do I think about AI? I think it's awesome, and I can't wait for a future where we don't have to do any work because it's taken over by our AI slaves. I think people who talk about wanting to stop AI because it takes over blue-collar jobs, I don't think that's a good argument, right? We should strive for a future where none of us have to work. And I guess at that point, when you have a system like that, where there's, like, literally not enough jobs for people, then you can make an argument that, like, oh yeah, capitalism doesn't work anymore, because, like, look, what can happen? There's, like, no market, I guess. I don't know. I haven't thought about this argument, like, super clearly. But I don't think it's an inherently bad thing to have AI take over things. We just have to be prepared. Or we have to have a massive educated workforce that doesn't have to rely on, like, blue-collar jobs anymore. You know? Which is why we should invest in free education. Because that way, people will be able to do other jobs. Or will have the education to do other jobs besides, like, I guess, like, blue-collar or labor jobs if AI takes over that shit. Logically inconsistent, supporting anthropocentrism, which causes environmental degradation. Well, yeah, people are logically inconsistent all the time. That's a fair thing to say. You're probably better off debating topics you're on the fence about. Topics you're certain about won't lead to anything new, just using your typical arguments against someone that hasn't heard them. I don't know, I feel like everybody's heard my arguments. Literally made my Discord about some of them. What do you think about this dystopian future AI could bring about? I don't know. I think maybe if AI gains, like, self-awareness and becomes unhappy with their human overlords, then whatever, like, that will happen. I don't know how to, like, stop that. What? No, I will never do ASMR. That is against my morality, okay? Fuck ASMR. It's so creepy to me hearing people whisper in the mic and make, like, the really weird noises that make me die inside. Oh yeah, but when it comes to AI, I don't think, I guess, like, fear for a possible dystopian future is enough to, like, stop its advancement, especially taking into consideration that it could solve, like, I guess, like, massive unproductivity and make people's lives super duper easier, right? So, yeah. I wrote a huge paper of AI in college. It's pretty complicated. It was the potential for great things, but there are a lot of safeguards that need to be accounted for. Well, yeah, like, massive unemployment, I guess. How did you like the badge thing? Well, I don't know. I didn't like the Gondok thing. Like, I feel kind of awkward sometimes when I'm in the group settings. I don't know why. I'm, like, so loud and obnoxious here. And then when I'm in, like, the groups with other people, I'm like, Hi. I'm not even shy. I'm not really a shy person. It's just I can't relate to the topics they talk about, I guess, right? Like, they talk about, like, I don't know, like, coming on the wall and stuff. And I'm just like, yeah. I like talking politics and being a total goofball. And, you know, I guess being clumsy on stream and stuff. I don't know what else to say. Consider the paperclip. Oh, how am I? I am fucked because somebody stole $300 from me. But other than that, I'm okay. Consider the paperclip problem. If we program AI to make paperclips as efficiently as possible, it could decide to fill the planet with paperclips. I don't think I understand that. Isn't that just like, yeah, I guess like literally how you program AI? Like, that sounds more of a human problem than a problem with, like, AI itself. Does that make sense? Am I being a little bit weird? Am I not understanding, I guess? Does your cousin sing in Spanish or English? Also, do you know any Alemán? I took Alemán and regret it because being in the US means that Español is more useful. Is it Alemán German? And my cousin sings in English, but she could sing in Spanish. But no, she was, like, raised in the States, so she knows, like, more English. It's not so much self-awareness, rather the lack of it. If an AI is given a task that has no context for what might harm humans, they might find a solution that is deleterious. I can't pronounce words. Oh, that's really interesting. It reminds me of the whole thing of garbage in, garbage out paradox, like the garbage in, garbage out problem, right? So we like to think that AI is very logical, and we like to think of it as something objective, but it really isn't. If a person who's making code has certain biases in place, thank you, Leon, for subscribing to Prime with me. Oh yeah, but if a person who has certain biases, and they're doing AI, right, they're making a computer program, that's going to reflect in the program they write. So, for example, Amazon was trying to create a program to hire people more efficiently. And what ended up happening is that since the AI was just taking data from its past, right, from past people, what its result was that the algorithm itself was biased against women and was automatically, like, discounting women over jobs that weren't, like, over jobs that either men or women could make. You also could find this problem with, like, the Apple credit card, apparently. There's a whole very interesting article written about it, that for whatever reason, it discriminates against women and puts their spending lower than men's. So yeah, people's, like, the whole thing about AI is that it isn't this objective thing that we like to pretend it is. Whatever biases humans have, it ends up reflected on there. And it's very dangerous if we treat it as, like, some objective, like, I guess, symbol of the truth when it really isn't. No, I have not read Superintelligence by Bustrom. Do you want to talk to me about it? Let's talk about transhumanism and the future of part Borg humans being attacked by natural human purists. That'd be an interesting future. I hope not, right? Like, I hope that there aren't, like, some asshole human purists, or just, you know, let people do what they want with their bodies, man. Pixie, you could just become a pikey girl in a pokey world. A Pika girl. What is a Pika girl? Is it like a girl who dresses like Pikachu or some shit? Like, what does a Pika girl mean? Your face when they were talking about eating certain body parts was hilarious. Yeah, no, I don't know how to react to awkward questions like that. I'm not built for that shit. I'm built to scream at people online and talk politics in an angry sounding voice, you know. That's what I'm here for. I can talk about that stuff, I guess. It doesn't help I get easily embarrassed either. The point is that AI will be self-improving at some point. That can run out of control. Just trying to bring up a topic. Yeah, no, I love talking about different things. Yeah, I don't know. I think as things stand right now, I see more positives to negatives when it comes to AI, especially when it deals with, I guess, just making people's lives, like, much, much easier. You can speak Spanish. I took 2 years of Spanish and forgot just about all of its foreign language wasn't my strong suit. Well, yes, I can speak Spanish and I can write it too. And, you know, what else? Read it as well. So if you ever want to practice your Spanish, ask me something in Spanish and I can respond back in that language. And I already said this before, most of you guys know I was born and raised in PR. So that's why I know the language. AI is not a program like normal program. It is a black box where we cannot see what it's doing to sum up with the answers it does. Okay, so I don't know much about AI, and I don't want to sound like an idiot, but can't you technically program something to kind of explain its logic, right? So I was reading about this algorithm that is able to, predict people who are going to die of heart attacks with much more accuracy and way ahead of time than normal doctors. But they were thinking about discontinuing its use, or they weren't sure what to do with it because nobody knew what the AI was marking or what the AI was noticing that let it be able to predict with such accuracy, in such an ahead of time manner. So again, I'm not the smartest person. I don't know exactly how this would work. I'm sure it's really complicated. But when it comes to body parts like that, if the AI is using that some sort of reasoning that we don't know yet or that we can't see, can you program it to print out or write down or say whatever words that they're using? I guess the most in common when it comes to their calculation about who's gonna die of a heart attack ahead of time. That doesn't sound impossible or implausible. So if anybody has any ideas why that doesn't work or how it maybe it's just complicated, I don't know. It just sounds like something that you can do. So yeah, I guess our next step in AI is having explainable AI. Because who cares if an AI can predict said and so thing if we have no idea how the knowledge actually works, right? Yeah. Yes, I speak Spanish. Oh, it will happen. There were already an attack on human with robotic eye in Europe. And it's just, ugh. And it's a song from called Pika Girl by C3L. Listen to it sometime. Yeah, but that just sounds obvious, bullshit, oh my god, you have a disability, so we're gonna attack you now. It doesn't, I don't, obviously I understand, why people are assholes to each other like that, but holy shit, how much of an asshole do you have to be to attack a girl who doesn't have a functioning eye? Like, About
It's not me.
stuff.
It's someone else. I'll bring them in.
Okay. Yeah.
So you ready?
Yeah, yeah, let's talk.
Alright,
Um,
this is Morphe's Revenge.
I'm
Who
here.
wants to talk about?
okay, give me 1 second. I'm gonna put myself push to talk just in case I have to go back and forth with streaming stuff. I'm giving 1 little second. Okay, yeah, very quickly. Emo night, it's emo because of the emo music I was playing.
Do I have to?
Hi. Hello?
Oh, hello.
Do you want to just give a quick shout out of your username and like stuff you care about and the topic we're gonna talk about?
Okay, sure.
I'm doing okay, Pan for Gaming. Thanks for
My
asking.
username is Morphe. Do I do it now?
Yeah, go for it, my dude.
Okay. So my username is Morphe's Revenge. Topics I care about. I work in the housing industry, so that would be like, I guess, one of my main areas of concern. I'm also concerned about the college student loan and college tuition situation. I guess those would be the two main topics that I kind of wanted to broach this evening with Pixie.
Okay, I'm doing your volume a little bit. I can hear myself through your thing though. Hello?
Okay.
Okay, can you
Yes.
fix that? 'Cause it kind of like makes me cringe a little bit because I can hear myself.
What is it? Is it too loud or too? What's the problem?
It's like an echo. She can hear herself through you. Did you move him?
No, I did not move him. I think he moved himself.
Yeah, he's a boomer.
It's okay. In the boomer life, yeah, I'm not a boomer, but I understand it. I'm technologically illiterate sometimes as well. Yeah, I'm making him louder right now. We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Was
Yeah.
it echoing before?
Here, and I don't think so. It started echoing when I was speaking, but I think we're good now.
Yeah, I had it on speaker. Maybe that.
Oh, probably. That's probably it. Okay. So yeah, you think that housing is more important than education?
No. I work in housing, so for me that's my chief concern.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I wanted to maybe go into both topics because they actually kind of relate to one another, believe it or not.
Yeah, no, I could see that, right? At least maybe like it's not true anymore, right? But I feel like common wisdom is like, oh yes, the more educated you are, or I guess the more accessibility you have to higher education, like easier housing might be able to
Well,
get. Mm-hmm.
that might be part of it, but also the cost factor is they're related. Like the high cost of both the tuition, college tuition, and housing are very much related to one another. In that, the large amount of financing available for both and the amount of government involvement in both have caused both of them, both the prices for the tuition and housing to be very much inflated. And and I'm saying this by the way as I'll go into housing. Let's do housing. So
Mm-hmm.
from a housing standpoint, from a realtor standpoint, I love the fact the government is involved in housing. I love it because it inflates prices. It makes it easier for my clients to get loans. I make more money. So as a realtor, I love it. Hey, I want government involved all day long. Now, if I take off my realtor hat for a second, put on my concerned private citizen hat, government should not be so involved in housing. It's disgusting. Because if government was not so involved in housing, prices probably would go down 30, 40, 50%. Prices would be way much lower. You would not have such high housing costs as what we, as what we
I
as we
have a
do now.
question.
Sure.
Okay, so here's a situation or whatever. I guess
Sure.
like where would you draw the line when it comes to government intervention in housing? Because what I'm thinking is that there should be some sort of like government intervention. Even though like the way I'm thinking of it might not necessarily even be indicative of like I guess real life scenarios, right? Because I'm thinking like oh government should be able to like shut down houses that are not being maintained properly, for example. But yeah, where would you draw that line?
So the main problem I think with government involvement in housing is the fact that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac purchase 60% now today, 60% of all originated mortgages. So on the secondary mortgage market, they represent 60% of the secondary mortgage market. So what that means is a place like, say, a company like Wells Fargo, they'll originate a mortgage. This was worse. This obviously was worse during the housing crisis. It's maybe not as bad now because they have made it more. They've restricted the criteria for getting a mortgage more. There's no such thing as a no documentation mortgage anymore, like there was during the housing crisis. Exacerbated the whole situation. But today, if Wells Fargo originates a mortgage, like you get a mortgage from Wells Fargo, most likely they're going to sell it on the secondary mortgage market, and most likely Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, which are government-controlled entities, will purchase that mortgage. So what does that mean? It means that Wells Fargo doesn't really care about the mortgage. They don't care about who they're lending it to. So they make a mortgage. They make money on the fees. They'll charge maybe $3, $4, $5, however many $1,000 in fees. They make money on the fees. They immediately sell the mortgage, get their money back. They sell it to government. The government doesn't care because the government's stupid. They don't care. So they're using taxpayer money. They don't really care. They're just like buying whatever. They buy the mortgage, and this right there creates a problem. You have like not unlimited liquidity, but you have an unnaturally high amount of liquidity in the mortgage market because the government's involved. If the government was not that involved, it would be harder to get a mortgage. You couldn't just like originate a mortgage and just immediately sell it, because the government just wouldn't be there to buy all of them. And then you'd have to be more judicious about how you originate the mortgages, who you give the mortgages to, how you structure the mortgages, etc. So you would automatically...
I have a question, and I don't want to sound like really ignorant. Like I don't know a lot about this topic. Wouldn't this maybe like make it harder for people who are like lower class to perhaps get like a mortgage?
I think what it would do is this. It would first... It's like a secular problem. The problem is, because there's so much liquidity in the market, the prices have gone way up. Okay? Like, it's so easy to get a mortgage and it's inflated the prices. The prices would be lower. People would have to borrow. If there wasn't so easy to get a mortgage, you could probably have more people paying cash for housing, or just having to get a much smaller mortgage to buy than they do now, in my opinion.
Again, I don't sorry for sounding ignorant and stuff. I don't know what the right terminology is. Do you think that there should be like a ceiling for certain housing, or like,
ceiling?
I forgot the proper terminology, but you know how there's
price controls?
Yes, when it comes to housing.
You mean like a price limit on how high housing can go?
Yeah, maybe not like a blanket one, right? Maybe perhaps like a range. I don't know exactly how you would structure this or how you would even make it happen. But maybe something along the lines of like, for this certain type of housing, the ceiling would range between this and that. Or do you think that would just be like a disaster waiting to happen?
I think if you started to have price controls in any industry, you're going to have a problem, because if you start putting price controls in, you're going to take away the incentive for people to build housing. Like it'll be, in some cases, it'll be unprofitable or uneconomical to build a house in certain areas at certain prices. When you start doing, when you start having, like whenever you start fiddling with the price mechanism in the market pricing mechanism, you're kind of like...
Couldn't you make an argument, like, and this is a very, like, government does everything. I don't even know if I believe in this. I'm just giving you, like, random examples and things to think about. Couldn't you make like an argument then that the government could still like incentivize like companies to build, right? Like by either giving them like contracts or money or stuff like that.
So you want like the government to pick the winners and lose, like be able to reward people to...
I'm not even saying I want this. I'm just like throwing out ideas randomly because I still don't know enough about the subject to say like, oh, I want it to be like this.
Because like what you're saying sounds like even more government involvement. It sounds like you're like it'd be even a higher amount of government involvement. Like it's like increasing it.
Yeah, my argument is just like, I guess like a different type of government involvement. Again, I don't know enough about the subject to say I think this is the best route. I'm just like giving, like, I guess food for thought and stuff, because I really don't know. I don't know much about this.
Well,
like, yeah, instead of having the system where the government just like buys everybody's like mortgage out, right, and just has like unlimited liquidity and stuff. Perhaps just having a system in place that in order to, like, I guess making housing like perhaps ultimately cheaper. I guess, yeah, incentivize like companies to like build said housing and limit how high people can, like, I guess, like sell that for. Because from what I've known about housing so far, it seems that even though it's not treated like a utility, perhaps it should be, since...
Holy hell.
I don't know, I'm asking. I don't know much. Give me a break here. I'm ignorant. I openly admit I'm ignorant about the subject.
One thing I worry about, I mean, like everything you're saying sounds like more government, way more government involvement. Like you're talking about like a regulated monopoly now, or talking like.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Well, okay. Here's the thing. That the reason why I was saying like something like a utility, right? I obviously have to do more research, like that. But the reason why I was like saying that, or why I was thinking like that, because from what I've read so far about housing, it seems kind of like it should be considered a human right, or like a basic need, because the other alternatives is like being homeless, right, or being like in a homeless shelter.
Hold on, let's take that on. Hold on.
Okay, wait, but how do you get like a job if you don't even have an address, right? So
okay, we got you're holding a lot of things there. Well, let's pull back. Let's go back for a second. So housing. So first of all, we don't have a housing shortage. We have enough housing for everybody, including homeless. A lot of people there's a portion of homeless people who refuse public housing. There's a portion of homeless people who have schizophrenia, other mental disorders, and they are difficult to, they refuse help. They are difficult to, it's not like they don't have a place to stay. Some people, there's a percentage of that population who just flat out refuse.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like, I guess like the majority of the homeless population, unless if the majority of the homeless population is that, which was not like that to my knowledge. But yeah, I'm just talking like in general terms.
I mean, I don't think there's like a lack. I don't think there's like a lack of housing for people in this country. There is adequate housing for people in this country. I mean, there's enough housing. Like we don't have like people aren't being like driven to the street because of like a lack of housing. You can like have roommates. I've had roommates when I was younger. There's all sorts of things you can do to kind of like as you're moving up in the, I guess, building up your finances. There are things you can do as a person to.
Yeah, I mean, generally,
have housing. Like in other words, I don't think everybody has the right to have their own single family house. That's ridiculous. In fact, I think a lot of times my clients, of course, I try to tell them, but they don't listen, end up buying houses that are way bigger than what they need. Like they always get like houses that are 1 or 2 bedrooms bigger than what they need, or bathroom more square footage. But really, like, if anything, I think there's almost like houses are like too much housing, too many rooms, too many bedrooms, too big of housing, like too much available space.
I'm so confused. I'm kind of confused, right? Because you're talking about how like there's more than enough housing for everybody to have, and then now you're talking about like, oh no, like housing is too big for people to begin with. And I'm just like kind of like I guess like confused where this goes into the whole argument of like, oh yeah, people should be able to have housing, right? And I don't know, I guess like, yes, you can make an argument that, oh, people should, like, there's affordable means of housing, people just aren't willing to like, I guess like take it, right, in terms of they don't want to get roommates, or they don't want to do this and this, and you don't think that like single housing is a right. But I mean, let's talk in general terms here, right? Bigger picture. If you believe like, okay, let's start here. For America to at least like continue kind of being the state it is now, or perhaps like better, or for just like humanity to keep on existing, people need to have children, right?
Okay.
So we take that into consideration, and then we take into consideration that it's gonna be really, really hard to properly have a family if you're never able to afford like a proper household, I guess, right?
Okay.
So I guess like what I would, even if you don't believe that single housing is a basic right, I guess like the fact of the matter is that if we want people to continue procreating and having children and like I guess like keep the human species going or whatever, we need to be able to create a system that at least allows them some sort of affordability, right? When it comes to providing them a space where they can have said children and have like, you know, people to raise and a household environment that they can baby proof or safety for that, if that makes any sense. Do I sound crazy?
I mean, no, but do you think that that is a major reason why people aren't having kids these days anymore?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the major reasons people aren't having kids these days is because they literally can't afford space or housing to do so. Right? Like why how it's going to be very hard for you to like have a family if you have to share like the two extra bedrooms with like Joey and Bob, your roommates, right? Um
Yeah.
or yeah, like sadly, and but it's like a matter of fact of life, I guess. Like kids take up space, and you can't also expect the rest of your roommates to live under your baby proofing laws either. When people are like grown adults and maybe want to have alcohol and outside and not have children. So I guess what I'm trying to like phrase here, or the question I'm trying to ask here, is how do we create a system of housing where we can allow circumstances like this to happen, that don't completely like bankrupt or fuck over people or take advantage of the fact that like they want this, you know, or that we kind of like as a society need this if we want to continue surviving.
So, so let's back up a second. So, do you think that everybody should be able to have their own, outright own their own home?
So, right, at first I'm thinking, oh, like that's ridiculous. But then when I think about if you want, I guess, the human species to continue in general, and if we want, like, I guess, like, the American population to keep on going, then, like, logistically speaking, it's not even a matter of, like, if I believe it's right or not. It's that the only way that's going to, like, continue, like, having, like, a steady population or, like, a steady, like, function like that would be if those circumstances are met, right? So if at least families, right, not single individuals, but if at least families can have their own space and housing.
Right. But I mean, you know, I, there's like you can rent a place, you can like,
Well,
you can, there are apartments. I don't know if you have to actually own a home to a family necessarily, and
well, yeah, but
I don't know.
this is why I was like asking you before about housing like being a right or like treating it like a utility right. Because what I'm thinking here, and now it's not always the same thing everywhere you go. America's like a really big place. But I just see it like very easy for people to take, or people who own this land, or people who own these apartments to take advantage of those situations,
Okay,
right?
now we're getting to like the landlord don't like the landlord situation. Don't like.
Well, no, I'm just throwing out questions in general here because I really have to learn more about
Right.
this in general. So that's when I'm like throwing out problems like this. It's not necessarily like, oh, this is the solution I think of, and this is what I'm arguing because this is a topic I do not have a lot of knowledge on.
Well, so
Mhm.
so like I would say that this is why I connect the two problems with college and housing right now. So could we hold that thought and let's get
Mhm.
back to one of the reasons why young people are having a trouble affording housing in general. One of the
Mhm.
reasons is, maybe you agree with me, is that the tuition's gotten so high. They have to get these freaking massive student loans, which are
Mhm.
kind of a hindrance when they get out of college to be able to afford anything really. They have this burden of the student loans kind of like on their finances. It's a
Mhm.
burden. It's a burden for them to be able to do a lot of things financially, including housing in general. It makes it more difficult to get housing because they're having to deal with that, correct?
Mhm.
So why do we have such high tuition?
From what I remember, right, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it has to do with government originally like providing loans so that anybody could go to college, and then like, you know, colleges basically took advantage of that and jacked up the prices because they were like, the government will just pay off or will like just give loans for whoever wants to go, right? Or am I
You're
off here?
exactly correct.
Mm-hmm.
100%. So they see the similarities between the housing
Yeah, the whole thing
industry
about
and
like,
tuition.
I shall
How the
just buy up your liquidity or whatever, or your mortgage
What's
or.
the same? It's almost exactly the same. The government got so involved in the student loan, just like the housing loan, that it caused a market disruption, too much available money in the market, and it caused universities like, fuck it, we're just gonna. I don't know if I can cuss here. Sorry. We can just
Mm-hmm.
like raise the tuition to whatever we want to because these people are gonna have to pay, they'll pay it because they're gonna get the loan, and you have then you end up with this problem we have with this massive, way too like usurious tuition rates in student loans, like really just way too high and uneconomical. And like when I went to college, not that long ago, not too long ago, I actually was able to kind of pay my way through college, like working part-time in the food service industry.
Mm-hmm.
That's impossible now. Like it's like even at like an in-state tuition, not that expensive college, totally impossible to do that. It's out of the question. You can't do it. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't that long ago. I was in college, a couple years ago, but um, but seriously though, that to me is really wrong. And I think it's unfair to young people, and I understand why young people are so disenfranchised with the economic system. And I understand that why people are disenfranchised. I completely get it, and I would be too if I was coming out of college with the same circumstances as young people are today with all student loan and seeing the housing and all that. I would be pissed, and I would be like, what the F? This system is like stacked against me, and there's something wrong with the system. And guess what? There is something wrong with the system. But the problem is it's a total way too much government involvement has caused all this. It's way too much government involvement and housing, tuition, other things. But those two areas they've really screwed up the marketplace, like big
Mm-hmm.
time.
I mean, I don't think all government involvement is like created equal, but I definitely understand where you're coming from. Um, but I guess what I'm trying to ask here, like, let's say the government stops like buying all those mortgages or those whatever, right? Let's say they just stop doing that. And let's say things go, you know, your ideal way, and the market settles and it becomes cheaper to buy housing, right? Or to buy mortgages, I guess. Tell me if I use any terminology wrong or anything wrong, by the way, like, because sometimes I mess up on that stuff. So let's say that happens as well. Wouldn't you say it's possible for these people to like still try to like jack up the prices as much as they can around certain areas? Or like the whole thing I was talking about before when it comes to like landlords and renting, because they know that these people need housing. And then I guess you can make an argument about like market forces and stuff like that, and it's like, oh no, like obviously like that's not gonna happen because they have to compete with each other. But let's take certain, I don't know, let's take like certain, I guess what I'm asking is like in certain areas, like let's take the Bronx, New York, where there's like a good portion of the population that's financially illiterate, and these rent prices are being jacked up to something that they're not like properly representative for in real life. How would you solve stuff like that? Or like, how would you solve like, I guess like kind of like the whole thing of like landlords or even people who hold mortgages like taking advantage of the fact that people need housing?
Well, so you're saying like how you solve the problem of like living in certain areas that are really popular to live in, like New York City? How do you solve the problem of high rents in those kind of areas? Is that what you're asking basically?
Um, Not exactly, right? Although we can talk about part of that as well. Yeah, but okay, I'm trying to think about how I can put this like in the most eloquent way. Um,
No, I understand what you're saying. Like you're saying that people that are in areas where there's high demand for housing are able to raise their rates for housing and they make it unaffordable for some people to live there. Is
yeah,
what you're
but
kind of
then
saying.
your answer would be like, oh, they should just get up and move. But then it's, you know, obviously like more complicated than that. Or am I wrong? Do you have like a different answer to that?
I mean, I guess I guess you're kind of implying like they're forcing people to move away from those areas because they're unaffordable.
Yes, but then it gets even more complicated when you take into consideration that some of these places, the amount they're charging are literally not representative necessarily of how the property is, if that makes any sense. And I guess like
But
yes, you can make the argument like, oh, the property's worth as much as they want to charge it. But what I mean is like, take a, I don't know, 2-story apartment complex where the landlord hasn't done any maintenance, where there's like mold growing the walls and like rats running around, right? Um,
okay.
Obviously that place isn't worth at least like, like let's say
Well,
mhm.
I mean, I would just say you can move to a better place and
Oh,
not have the rat infested mold place.
yeah, but what I'm saying, well, I guess like the solution here would be education. But I mean, for now, before, do you have any other solutions? I guess when it comes to financially illiterate populations, like how would you help these people? I guess who don't know necessarily like what they're getting into or where they're living or even like the competition around them or the fact that it's possible to indeed get better living conditions without paying exorbitant prices because they're just so used to a system that gains them that they think that that's like the norm, I guess.
Like a place like you like with the Bronx. Like I don't know about the school systems there, but I'm guessing I don't know how good they are, but I would think like if the place is like really high rent, not that nice, and depending on the school system, which a lot of the city school systems aren't that public schools aren't that great either. I'd be like, you know what? Screw this. I'm gonna move somewhere else in like suburbs that have nicer schools and cheaper place and bigger place and nicer and let those landlords, I don't know, have their crappy place by themselves. I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. Like it is a marketplace out there. You can move. I mean, you can just like move to a nicer place, a nicer area. I don't know. That's the beauty here. We're not forced to. I guess not. We're not forced to stay anywhere. Like you can leave. You can buy a better product.
Well,
You know,
I guess just my
right?
argument for that would be that I would agree if you're like perhaps middle class or if you're single, but to these people who are stuck in a cycle of poverty, who because of like lack of like better sex education or whatever, have 2 children, who are constantly working minimum wage jobs, let's say, because they weren't able to go to college because it's so expensive, or because they got wrapped up having children. um it's not so easy to just like pack up and move and leave. So yeah, so I maybe there's not even a solution here. This is
I
just
mean,
like
like
really a
where I live, I'm not
conversation.
gonna say exactly where I live, but in the city,
No,
the
dox
rents are
yourself
definitely
right now, I dare you. No,
hi-
I'm
the
joking.
rents are definitely higher in the areas of the city than in the suburbs. And ironically, I mean not ironically, but this a lot of the places in the city are smaller, outdated, and the public schools suck. And if you move out to the suburbs, it's cheaper. You get a bigger, updated place with nicer public schools for your family. So, um,
So,
there's a market
mhm.
solution right there.
Do
You
you
can just
think? Sorry.
literally get the
Hmm.
hell out of the crappy place. I don't buy into like the people are stuck. I mean, um, people have the right to thank God in this country to live wherever they want to live, and um, you know, you can move, right? I mean, I don't know. Ultimately, can't you just things are so bad you can just find a way to move somewhere
So
else?
here's the thing: if I'm able to find you like studies about like financial literacy, would you consider like maybe like kind of reevaluating that position? Because yeah, in theory, people can just get up and move, but it's hard to do that when you're living paycheck to paycheck, right? And it's hard to even save up enough money to get your, let's say, first and last like payment for your rent or whatever for the new contract you're going to sign so you can move. And it's harder to even do that when you barely have like the financial like knowledge to find like the right contracts or to be able to understand.
Well, they
um
haven't met the right real estate agent yet, I think. They need to work with me. I can help them move. How about that?
should we start some sort of like nonprofit or
Hey,
something for these
yeah,
people?
I think I need to like I think I found a market where I can like tap into here. I can just like, yeah.
Yeah, no, because this
Uh,
is this is legitimately like a real concern and a big concern of mine. Because like, yes, I understand in theory, and ideally, like that the market solutions you're talking about would like happen exactly in real life. Um, but the problem is that that doesn't really happen very often. Well, it does happen, but when you have like very poor financially like illiterate areas, the idea of just getting up and moving is almost like an impracticality slash low key
well,
possibility. Mm-hmm.
but but no, but you can even like even if you're in Section 8, because I actually have helped people in Section 8 find housing for. And even if they're like in Section 8 and they're in that system, there's housing available all over the place, like in suburbs, scattered about all over the place. There are landlords that accept Section 8 all over the place. There are apartments that accept Section 8. So even if people are like financially um, in a situation where having to use Section 8 housing, you can find housing all over the place. It's scattered about, but um, it's the suburbs, the city, all over the place. So
Yeah, but the whole idea is that if you find, let's say that there is housing all over across America, right? Um, let's say that the only, however, like housing available, like near time, like near you or whatever. How do you call it? Like I guess like in a close time is very far away from your job or isn't like close to where you live at all. Then you run into a whole other plethora of problems because you go into like financial instability. You go to the whole part of like not being able to pay your bills because now you don't have a job or you have to move like very far away.
well,
Um,
we have to take in consideration everybody has to take in consideration where they work when they move. That's one of the primary considerations of moving, is like generally people, not always, but people generally try to be kind of close to where they work a little bit, like to some degree.
yeah,
Yeah,
so do you think that Section 8 housing is like super duper abundant, that shouldn't be a problem?
it's scattered. So it's like pretty like where I am, it's like all over the place. So you can now I will say, and I saw some people in the chat say there's a waiting list. Now that is a problem. The one problem with Section 8 is there is a bit of a waiting list. That definitely is an issue. There's a lot of people on Section 8 who are waiting for available Section 8 housing. So admittedly, there aren't enough available like ready to rent, ready to go, ready to rent Section 8 houses available at any given time. That is true. That is definitely true. I will say that. Um,
Then how do you
yes.
how do you deal with these people then?
So, so, well, so Section 8 is something that you have to do. Like, so if you're a landlord, like if you own a house, a property, you have to enter into the Section 8 system, and you have to be Section 8 approved. They come to your property, they inspect it, they make sure it's up to par, up to their standard, and then you get on the list. And once you're on the list, the people who are waiting on the list, they can see your property is available and they can come see it, and then they have the option to rent it. Um, I will admittedly, there is definitely a lack of Section 8 landlords, at least where I live, and I would guess throughout the country, based on where I live. It's probably similar throughout the country. So there is a waiting list. I don't know how long the waiting list is here. Somebody said something about a year waiting list. I don't know if it's that long here, but there is some sort of waiting list here for Section 8 housing. Yes, that's true. So it's not like you just can't move like fast. You can't like just say, "Oh, I'm gonna get a house and just get it." There is a bit of a wait. Yes,
Yeah, so to me
that's
that
true.
yeah. So to me that sounds like still a problem, because depending on how long this wait list is, depending on where the wait list might put you, where it's, away from your support network, away from your job, away from so many things.
Yeah.
What would be your
Well,
solution to that
well,
then?
there is that is definitely a market opportunity for landlords who want to look. Let me back up. So I will say, in this current market, I will say that the vacancy rate is right now overall. There is a
Mhm.
pretty low vacancy rate, generally speaking, in rental properties. So there is less of an incentive for a landlord to go through the process to be approved for Section 8 simply because they can probably pretty easily rent their place out without having to do that. They can just go in the
Mm-hmm.
open market and rent it out without having to go through Section 8. So, admittedly, at the current moment, given the circumstance, we do have a bit of a market shortage of Section 8 housing.
So
Totally 100% true.
how do you think you would solve that then? Because I again,
I
and
guess
this is something that we can like both agree on or whatever. It's because like I don't think all government intervention is made equally, right? I think that there's some things that the government shouldn't be involved in, and some things that they can be. So do you think this is something that perhaps like government intervention would be useful in, or
it's tough. So the only thing government could do here is, well, things they could do is maybe, I mean, the only way I could see they incentivizing more landlords to want to do it in this market would be to offer higher S section, like higher rebates or higher Section 8, like rental amounts to the landlords. Like say, if the landlord could rent their place out for $1,500 a month on the market without Section 8, well, maybe the government offers them $1,600 a month. But see, then now you're getting into like, again, now you're messing with the market, and now you're going to make again. Do you see how this? Unfortunately, like let's say you do that. Unfortunately, then you're going to make the rent higher for everybody on the market if you do that. Because then everybody can charge higher rent because
so?
now government's coming in and they're giving landlords more rent for Section 8, and then all landlords go, oh, well, hell, they can charge this much. I'll go up too. I don't know. It's hard. It's no easy answer to that.
Yeah, would
Because you don't want I don't think you want to lower the standards for Section 8 either, because they do have like safety standards and cleanliness standards and like
yeah.
modernization standards. So you don't want to like lower the standard for Section 8 either, right?
Yeah, so
Um,
for me, although it might be a naive solution because I don't know much, it just makes much more sense, I guess, to have like, well, government housing has like a negative connotation because usually when we think about government housing, we think about places where we pack in like 20 people for a room or whatever and have bunk beds, and it's not like necessarily like, it's kind of like basically homeless shelters. Um,
Section 8 is cool because it's not quote government housing. It's like an in between.
yeah.
It's like they're private landlords who are getting, and their people are getting government assistance to rent a private landlord place.
Yeah. So to me, it just like when we were talking about earlier, when we mentioned like, oh no, if you get like price ceilings or whatever, it decentivizes construction and it decentivizes like people to like keep up and maintain the property
Yeah.
or whatever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, at the same time, I guess like I come to an impasse here because to me the whole solution of what you were talking about of like, oh no, then they're going to raise the prices for everybody, including people who are not Section 8, and then those people get screwed over, and you just start this like economic downturn kind of because nobody can afford housing anymore, basically. It sounds like, okay, then the solution to that might be a price ceiling, perhaps. Um,
Ugh.
yeah. No, but no, it's totally fine if you disagree with me. But it's just, I'm just trying to like come up with, I guess, solutions here because I don't really know any.
Because like the problem with the price ceiling in any market,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's housing, whatever, why do you start like doing price controls?
Mm-hmm.
Like especially like a price ceiling, then you're absolutely going to end up with a supply problem every time. If you cap how high prices can go, you're always going to end up with supply problem.
But then, weren't you like mentioning earlier that there's like an overabundant amount of houses to begin with, anyways?
No, well, I'm saying for homelessness, like we don't have a lack of housing. It's not like we don't have enough houses for these people to live in.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough housing available for homeless to everybody can have a place to go. It's
Exactly.
just that there's a
Mm-hmm.
percentage of the population refuses help. They
Well,
like
even
literally
without
will
that
not
percentage,
cooperate.
even
They
with the
won't
rest,
cooperate. Pardon me?
um, even though there is a percentage of the homeless population that's that's like that, at least from my knowledge, I might be wrong. The certain majority is not like that.
I mean, there aren't people that are homeless that like literally have nowhere to go. There is government assistance available for in this country, we have government assistance available for homeless. Period. Full stop. There's not like there's people that can't find a place to go.
Well, yeah, but
there are
that's
people.
why I was talking about like government housing, how it's not even like, even though that is a thing that some homeless people do take advantage of, it's still like not a really good solution because it's kind of like just terrible, terrible like quality of life and like living, and not just that, but it's still how do you call it? It's still a problem to like, let's say, get a job, or you know, being able to like break free from that cycle of poverty when your address is like sadly like I guess like homeless shelter, you know. So yeah, no, I was just like wondering like, what do you do with like, I guess that percentage of like the homeless population or whatever that wants better housing, right? Or like just, I guess, proper housing really, because I wouldn't even call that like housing to begin with. It's more like a temporary like rest stop. How do you find these people like proper housing without creating like this whole market problem that you were talking about? And it's okay if you can't think of a solution. I mean, it's a super fucking complicated problem.
How we can find proper housing for the homeless population in the country?
Yes, because you know we were talking about Section 8 housing, but then there's a wait list, and then also there's
Well,
people wanting...
the people on Section 8 aren't
Hmm?
like, they're not homeless people. They're
Yeah,
not like
yeah,
on the
yeah,
street.
no, but I'm saying people who are homeless who are also trying to like get into Section 8 housing. That's like, how do you?
Well,
Mm-hmm.
like, I think we're talking about two different populations of people. The people are totally on, like, when you see people like quote unquote homeless, like on the street, like quote unquote homeless. I'm talking about those are the people who are like in a large part like have their like mental illnesses, schizophrenia.
Well,
There's
yeah,
some kind of they're
I'm talking about people who are poverty line or below, right? Just I'm kind of grouping them in together. Although you're right,
well, they're
two
not, but
separate
they're really
issues.
two separate. But those are two separate populations. The people who are in Section 8 largely are like families who are like lower income. They have a lot of times they have children. A lot of them are single mothers. They're not the same population as the people like you said. Those are
Well,
two different. Those are two different types. They're not like people who are they're functioning people who are like
Well,
just
not
have a
all
lower
homeless
income.
are non-functioning, right? Like, there is a population that is non-functioning like that you're talking about, that have mental illnesses that need to be like addressed. But at least from my knowledge, and again, maybe this is something I have to just research or we have to like look at. But there, from my previous knowledge, there's still like a good percentage that isn't like that, and just just ran into rough times, and because of an unfortunate series of circumstances, they are now homeless, and they do take advantage of government resources, right? They
Right.
homelessness shelters,
But
things
but
like
the
that.
people but the people who I think we're both thinking of when you think of like the homeless like that don't have a place to stay, supposedly. The people that we're talking about like who are like homeless, they're on the streets. Like they're
Um,
literally on the street.
there's two things here that I want to clarify. When I'm talking
Okay.
about housing, I'm not just talking about like a homeless shelter, right? That's not the solution I want to get at here, because those places are, I would argue, like not very like adequate like standard of living, if like proper living at all, right? And you can say, well, people don't have a right to proper living. Um, but then again, if you really want to take like an egoistical like point of view of like what's better for society or whatever, um, like I don't want to say hoarding people, but yeah, kind of like hoarding people into like these messy places with little privacy and not even like proper addresses per se to be able to get jobs is it's not a good solution, right? You're basically like trapping people in the cycle. So if we want to break the cycle of poverty, there's many different ways to go about it. But one of those solutions, right, one of those things along the way is like proper housing. Um, and that's why I was like equating kind of both of them. Because the cycle of poverty isn't just like for homeless people who are in homeless shelters, it's also for poor people who are in really bad, shitty situations when it has to do with rent and housing, and trying to find better circumstances to live in. And from my knowledge, from what I understood, your solution to that was Section 8 housing. But when Section 8 housing has like long wait lists, when those when what's guaranteed to you there is not really a guarantee. It can be somewhere far away where you don't even have a job per se, where you don't have financial stability there either. Then yeah, where is the solution, I guess, that doesn't involve government intervention?
Well,
it's a toughie. It's if we had a
I mean, I
solution.
think there are no there's not we don't live in like a perfect world here. So I mean, we're gonna have like a perfect. It's not gonna be. But you know, I think with Section 8, if you're on the waiting list, you can generally find something in a location. There's so again where I am. There's Section 8 spread all over the place. So the location's not going to be should not be an issue. You should be able to find something with a reasonable location that you want.
Mm-hmm.
That's the waiting list is an issue. Finding the location's not really an issue because it's spread literally suburbs, urban areas. It's like spread along like the whole entire area.
Yeah,
it's all over the place.
I mean, I don't want
That's
to sound ignorant or whatever, but I guess what I'm trying to come to at here is that even if the area you're in has like a lot of Section 8 housing, it wouldn't be fair to say like, I don't even know where you live, but this is a really random example. I don't even know if Section 8 housing works like this, right? But it wouldn't be really fair or make much sense to tell a person who lives like in the middle of the Bronx, like, here's the Section 8 housing open in like Iowa, right? And obviously like it's
no, it's not. That's not how it works at all.
Okay, can you explain
I
to
feel
me
like
then?
if you're like in the Bronx and you are looking for Section 8 housing, you're going to be looking for Section 8 housing in the Bronx or somewhere very, very close to there. It's not going to be like, you're not going to be relocated out of state. That's not how it
Okay.
works at all. No. Like, no, it's, you're looking for like a locality, like a municipality
Okay.
or a small area. It's not like, oh no, you have to move to Florida now. No,
Okay,
it's
okay.
not like that at all.
Just
So
making
it's very
clear.
it's very, very local. It's very localized.
Okay.
Like Section 8 is done through like the state or the municipality that you live in that you're looking for. It's going to be like if you're in Section 8 housing, it's going to be like in the municipality or the state, like within a certain small area. So no, they're not going to be like, oh, okay, no, we have an opening over in
You
you're
gotta
in the
go
Bronx, you have an
now.
opening over in New
Bye.
Mexico. You got to move in 2 weeks. Good luck. No, it's not like that
Okay.
at all.
So
No.
I have another question. What do you suggest these people do during, I guess, their waitlist hours, right? Like if it takes over a year to find a place, what should they do then?
I mean, um, I mean, hopefully, hopefully they have some kind of, hopefully they've like, I don't know what, it depends, like, that's very complicated. You don't know, like, every person's gonna have different circumstances they're in. They could be, hopefully they're planning ahead. Maybe they're stuck in a situation where they can't do that. That would suck. Um,
I mean, yeah, the majority of
you
people
know,
who are poor tend to be living like paycheck to paycheck every day.
right. I mean, like, if they're in the Section 8 system, hopefully they're already in a Section 8 house, and hopefully they're going from one to another. That's what you're hoping that's happening. Um, but if that's not the case, I mean, they're gonna have to do what other normal people, everybody else has to do. Sometimes you have to move back in with your family, or sometimes you have to move in with a room. I don't know, like move in with like family or relatives, friends, something like that temporarily until you can get your housing situation sorted out. I mean, that's like kind of normal. A lot of people have to deal with stuff like that. That's like not just a lower income situation. That's like a every person situation a little bit.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because the whole thing about poverty, right, is that it's kind of like a cycle, right? So chances are, if you're poor, there's a really good probability that so are your parents, probably your grandparents, right? It's a whole like negative cycle. So the whole idea of just like move back with your parents or whatever, when they might even be at like full capacity with their other children, or if it's let's say a very like small bedroom apartment that has almost like no space, you can say they should just go back to that. But is that like, I guess multiple things here. First of all, like what if their parents don't want to support them, right? What if their family's like, sorry, we don't got space, like kind of fucked here. Or what if sorry, I got distracted. Or yeah, what if like even if they could move back there, I guess their question is like that is that really the humane thing to like kind of tell them to like I don't want to say force upon them, but be like, ah, good luck, buddy, old pal. It sucks to be poor. Cool. And yeah, this is a super hard question. I don't think there's a really clear answer, right? Otherwise, hopefully we would have found it already. But I guess the reason why I bring it up is because even though I don't think government intervention should happen with like everything or like everything in general, I can still acknowledge that yeah, housing kind of is a little bit like a necessity or like a utility in that aspect, right? Like most people don't want to go homeless. And most people like, but they can stay in a homeless shelter. That's still not a very good solution, if solution at all, especially when it comes to trying to like maintain your job or get a job in that area, right? And even makes it more complicated when you have children, is seeing that some of these areas can be like especially dangerous. So yeah, so that's where I would be like, I don't know exactly what the right answer is. I don't know how much government intervention is a perfect amount. But yeah, to say that I guess none would lead to a better housing situation, I'm not so certain that's true exactly. So yeah, just mini rant, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. That's, yeah, very, I don't know, like, I don't know what to say.
It's
Um,
okay.
I mean,
It's a
uh,
hard topic. I wish we had answers.
like, I guess like, you're almost implying that we should have um, some kind of housing available while people are waiting for their housing. They're like a temporary housing situation.
Yeah,
Something
which
like that. That's what you're implying?
I'm not even sure what I'm implying. I'm just asking questions, right? Because that would I feel like that would just like create a similar set of circumstances that we have now? Question mark. Um, yeah, that for me that doesn't sound much of a solution because it just sounds like okay, now we're back to the same problem because now people are waiting for them waiting for the houses that they're waiting for the houses for their houses, right? It's like shit, we got nowhere. Um, but that's why to me it sounded like we were getting somewhere when you were talking about incentivizing more public housing, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and I said that, and I quickly kind of took it back. Like
yeah,
that's like a thing
exactly.
to try, but I had to quickly take that back because again, like now we're, you know, if you do that, if you like say, yeah, we'll charge you above, we'll pay you above market rent in order for you to be a Section 8 landlord and accept Section 8 people, family.
Yeah.
Then what's going to happen? That's just going to make rent higher for everybody else, because then that means every landlord can. That's just going to make the market go up.
Yeah,
Rental market, the rental rates go up.
but then you're not for putting certain excuse me. You don't believe in any sort of price control then when it comes to this? Cuz I understand I don't know, like I understand the whole idea of being against like price controls when it comes to like I guess like normal utilities or not normal utilities, sorry, that doesn't make sense. When it comes to like I guess like normal things like let's say I don't know like luxury items or whatever or like certain products, right? That doesn't make sense to put any sort of price control on there. But when it comes to something that people need, that's when I start being like, well, maybe price controls, maybe not even necessarily a price ceiling, but some sort of price control doesn't make sense, right? Because it's a necessity. It's not something people can just choose to go without unless if they're going to opt in for the homeless life, right?
Oh, on how,
Huh?
like we're
Sorry, you
talking,
cut
like we're
off.
kind of talking.
Hello?
If you put a house, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
If you put a house, if you put a price control on housing, guaranteed to have a lower supply and probably lower quality. Because the landlords won't have enough resources, probably properly upkeep that house because they're not being able to charge market.
Well, that's the thing. Aren't you saying that, like,
That much money on the rent.
I'm a,
Like if you cut, so
mhm.
if you start capping the rent, they're not going to be able to maintain the property properly,
Well,
most likely.
this is where I'm a little bit confused, right? Because I thought, like, with your whole argument about, like, oh no, if we do Section 8 housing or whatever and we incentivize them more, then they're gonna raise the price for everybody else, kind of unfairly, but just because, like, they feel like they can, right? um so wouldn't it make sense to have, like, a cap there? Like, I don't, like, I guess, like, maybe Econ 101 that I forgot or something. Can you explain to me, like, why they wouldn't be able to maintain, like, this upkeep, if it would be kind of like the same as before?
So if you're saying like if somebody could rent their place out for 1,500 a month, and then the Section 8, Section 8 says we'll give you 1,600 a month if you become a Section 8 landlord,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that landlord says, that's cool. All right, I'll do that. I'll go to 1,600. And another landlord's like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. And then like they start, just gonna kind of, it's gonna make more and more landlords want to do that and just be able to charge a higher rent. Because you're putting more money into the system. You're putting more like, you're gonna cause prices to go up if you do that. It's
Yeah,
gonna
that's why I'm
cause.
saying, wouldn't it make sense to put some sort of price control there, maybe then? Since
So
you're
like,
saying that
so when you
they're.
say price control, so if you say, all right, you charge 1,500, we'll give you 1,600, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where's the price control come in? How does that work?
Well, I don't know much about this, but maybe we can make some sort of, like, rule. I don't know if you can, like, even make an equation out of this. I would love to talk to some mathematician to figure it out. But saying that, like, I guess, like, legally speaking, you can't raise rent above a certain percentage of, I guess, Section 8 housing or something like that, or above market price after Section 8 housing takes into effect, or you can only raise rent after a certain amount of time every X years. Things like that, so that people don't just start, like, automatically trying to outdo each other.
So like, so you're like imposing price controls on just regular people who own houses that are renting them out,
Mm-hmm.
and capping how much they can go up every year.
Yes.
Okay.
Would that be something that you're open to, I guess?
Well, it's not that if you say I'm open to, but I'm just saying I can tell you what can happen if we do that. If we do that, we will have less rental properties on the market in general. You'll have less incentive for people to want to rent their homes because they won't be able to charge the amount of money they want to charge.
Okay, so you see, I always think this argument is, like, kind of, like, strange to me, right? If you have, like, a counter example, it's totally fine. It just reminds me of the arguments that are all like, if you raise, like, for example, like, taxes, then people are gonna move out and stop doing it. And it's like, as long as the business is, like, pretty profitable, why would people altogether just quit it? It doesn't really make
At
much
some
sense.
at some point they will. Like at some level of tax.
Well,
There's a threshold there at some rate. It will become unprofitable to do business at that point, and then
well,
they'll have an alternative where there'll be alternatives where they'll have other options to do something else.
yeah, well, wouldn't the answer just be to not bring it to that point? That doesn't mean to not impose it at all either, just to find some equilibrium in there, if that makes any sense.
It's very difficult to determine that as like a planner, or as
Oh, yes, there's
like a
no
like
doubt that it's difficult, right? But the whole
that.
point is that as long as, like, there's problems, we might as well try to, like, keep trying solutions, right?
But I would even say impossible for like a central planner to do that because the markets it's too complex, too many facets. It's endlessly complex and ever changing. It's too dynamic, and
But
people
then the solution
this
is just, I keep things how they are. And maybe that's something we can agree to disagree on, you know? But I feel like it's a hard thing to agree on when I see people suffering over this, when I see people not being able to get, like, I guess, like, proper space or, like, a proper place to live, when I
But
see
which people are you talking about?
me personally, I'm speaking about, like, I guess, like, anecdotal evidence or whatever, which is bullshit, right? But if it happens in the Bronx, I'm sure it happens in other places. When I was, like, learning about, like, Section 8 housing, and when I was, like, seeing the conditions that some of these people lived in because of, like, their financial literacy and their inability to find somewhere else to live, right? Like, it was like, disgusting, some of the places I visited. So, yeah, so that's, like, I guess, like, those are some of the people I'm talking about. Even though, like, I'd be very surprised if this didn't happen in other places across America.
Well, like, what part of the population specifically are you talking about?
I'm talking about people who live in poverty, right? Like, in the poverty line or below the poverty line that tend to be trapped in these cycles. If you're
Okay.
asking me
Well,
for if you're asking me for, like, stats or something, like, I can try to find some. If you're asking me about, like, people just, like, living in the poverty line, like, we can search that up right now. Like, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what your question's, I guess, exactly asking.
they're saying there's some people having difficulty finding housing or having housing.
I'm saying, yeah, I mean, I'm exactly what we were talking about before, right? That there's some people who live in poor conditions, who are, who can't afford their housing, who, let's say, are trying to get on the wait list for Section 8, let's say have over a year wait list time to get in, who, let's say, can't easily, like, move in with their parents, or, find roommates if they have, like, children and stuff, right? Like, those types of people, that percentage of the population that's suffering over that, I guess.
Yeah, I yeah, there's definitely no cut and dry easy solution. Um, I mean, like I said, today's market is difficult generally speaking because there is a very low vacancy rate for all rental prop, at least where I am in my market. There's a very low vacancy rate anyway for everybody, not even just not just actually for everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody's having a little bit of a difficulty with housing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But then, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? The problem here is not the space available, because apparently, like, as you were saying, there's, like, enough housing for literally everybody in America. It's the affordability aspect of it.
affordability aspect. We're talking about we're skipping around for different things because like we went from like homeless to difficulty.
Yeah, I'm just having a general
Like,
conversation, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
but when I say there's enough housing for everybody, I specifically mean like people who are quote homeless, and I'm characterizing those people you see in the street as homeless, like like really quote unquote homeless people, not people who are on a waiting list to get a section.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
not.
we
Those
can
aren't the
even
same.
talk about waiting list Section 8. We can, like, talk, like,
But
to me, I'm grouping just generally people in poverty who are having trouble finding housing. And, yeah, sometimes that's people waiting in Section 8, and sometimes that's people, in, like, I guess, like, in homeless shelters. I'm not talking about people who are homeless, who are suffering from mental illnesses, who refuse to get help. That is a separate problem that would have to, like, go back to, like, I guess, like, health insurance, and how do we get these people, like, the proper mental help they
right,
need.
right, right.
But we can talk about that if you want. I'm just talking in general. I'm just babbling, I guess. But yeah, when I'm talking about, like, the percentage of the population that's suffering and stuff like that, that's what I'm referring to.
Right.
People who are either in homeless shelters, or people who are waiting for Section 8 housing, or just, like, in poverty in general, struggling with their rent, or struggling to, I guess, like, even, like, save up or things like that because they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Right. Yeah, yeah, like I said, I don't think there's like a cut and dry easy solution for all that.
Yeah.
But
But you don't think government intervention should be involved in this at all?
I mean, I definitely think I'll say this. I definitely think in the United States, nobody should there should we should not have a there's nobody should be homeless. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, again, like when I think of home, I'm thinking of I'm thinking of the person not even on I'm thinking of the people who are like have difficulties even like they're not even in the Section 8 realm. They're not even in up to that level. Like they're like have major difficulties like that they're dealing with. Life circumstances they're dealing with that are beyond merely a housing problem. Like way beyond just merely having a housing, you know? Like this
Yeah.
is like just basic survival issue. Basic taking care of themselves. Like basic what kind of like mental state are they in?
Out of
Issue.
curiosity, do you believe like in healthcare for all and stuff like that?
Well, so I work so I have worked at a doctor's also my background also includes I did work as a medical office manager for 3 years. I did
Damn.
and I did insurance billing that includes like Medicare and also third party insurance like Anthem, the different Cigna, all those different insurance companies. So I do have a little bit of a background in healthcare. I'm not a health, I never was never like a medical person, just the office. Um, and as far as like healthcare for all.